When we think about posture, oftentimes there's an image, right, of what ideal posture would be or what would be not ideal. Typically, you're going to think of as somebody who is standing like this, slouched, shoulders forward, head down. This is usually an idea of less than optimal posture, right? And then, of course, the opposite being if you're here, this is ideal. This is the sound bite or the thing that people like to say in their heads or to other people, that you need to stand tall. And to some degree that might be true, but we have to consider what makes posture a thing. What is posture? The first thing and the most fundamental of all is structure. The bony structures determine essentially what degree of standing up you can get and how low you can get. Not everyone's going to be the same, and you can clearly see this when you look at people. Some people have a much bigger curve in their spine, other people have a less pronounced curve. And that could just be bony structure that they're born with. Then there's also bony changes, things that can develop over time due to just regular usage. So if you, at a younger age, could stand up tall, but you chose to stand like this or sit like this over the course of 30 years, now you might have developed some bone spurs and don't have the opportunity to go much higher. So your available joint motions have changed, and now you don't have that complete upright posture that everyone claims is good. Okay, so we got that part. What other things can influence posture? Well, certainly muscles could be weak. Some things could be tight. But is it so tight, like if your chest is tight, is it so tight that you cannot pull your shoulders back at all? If this stuff is just so bound that your upper back doesn't have the ability to fight it to get your shoulders back? That is usually not the case. I do have a client who has had some major brain trauma, who can't move half her body, where her arm is stuck here, and it takes a tremendous maximal effort to try to even straighten it. That situation, sure, tightness is a factor, but that isn't muscular tightness in the way that we think of it. That is a neurological problem. Something happened to her brain. That's a very different situation than an ordinary individual without a trauma that is completely changing the way her muscular system is functioning. So this tight and weak thing, there is validity to it, but I don't think it is as big of a factor as people like to think it is. Just a thought. Another thing is, let's say you get injured. Maybe you pull a muscle in your abdomen. So now when you walk or you twist or you sit up straight, this thing hurts if you do things a certain way. So now you're kind of guarding it. So you're hunched because if you do this, it's like pulling at you. Well, that's a temporary change. Doesn't mean that in the future you won't be able to stand tall. But your posture now is determined based on what this pain will allow for you to do. Another aspect of posture is decisions. Okay, so what do you do regularly? Your daily decisions, your daily activities of living are going to determine a lot of what creates your posture, in a sense that if you are working at a desk 10 hours a day for 30 years and you don't move much from that position, you don't exercise, you don't challenge many of the musculatures that fight the position that you're always in, you're probably going to see alterations, permanent alterations, in your ability to get up tall. Versus somebody maybe who does work in an office but makes a big effort every hour to stand, to stretch, to raise their shoulders, their arms, get their back tight, and on top of that, trains 3 days a week with well-designed strategic exercise. Well, this person is going to have a much better opportunity to utilize their spinal motions for longer periods of time. At least theoretically, that's the way I would see it. So when you break it down, posture, it's not so simple as just stand up, don't slouch. What if the stand up for that person is here and they can't get up there? If that's the case, you can't force them to go further than they can go. So you have to be mindful about what that person has available. And once you figure out where their extremes are and you determine that they do have enough movement to stand up a little bit, then it's just encouraging them to, hey, pay attention, make a little effort to fight gravity. Don't slouch so much. This is something that you have control over. And if you make a mental effort periodically every day to stand up, to be aware of what you're doing with your body, well, then that will alter your posture probably more than training will ever. You can strengthen your back as much as you like, but if you don't use the required strength to stand taller, then it's not going to make a difference. Your posture still remains the same as to what it is. So I just think those are some of the key components of posture. And when you're trying to determine for somebody where their ideal posture is, just keep those things in mind.